All you really needed was a new president, and you can change the world. Now Venezuela's oil is ours. After having an entire generation of Venezuelan communists that wanted to use their proximity to America to destroy our nation with drugs and with terrorists, now Venezuela is going to be our closest ally. Awesome. Scoop, U.S. close to striking massive deal to own Venezuela's oil. Let's go ahead and look. Trump administration in talks with Venezuela's interim government about how taking ownership stake in South American countries' enormous oil resources to American officials tell Axios. Why it matters. The historic deal would more than double U.S. oil reserves by drawing from the country that has the world's largest proven reserves. We've tried to explain this to people, that Venezuela equals the Middle East, and it's one country. And it doesn't equal the Middle East in total amount of oil production because it's not there yet. It equals the Middle East in its capacity to replace the Middle East. And it doesn't require going around the single worst place on planet Earth, Satan's anus, the Strait of Hormuz, that is just constantly like a cesspool of bombs and mines and belligerence and retardation. And it can just like, you can just get rid of it. You can just tell the Middle East to drink their oil, right? And that would be incredible for us in the West to have that reserve. Well, ladies and gentlemen, calling this deal huge would be an understatement, one of the officials said. It is massive. Adding pressure to get the deal signed, the war in Iran and Ukraine have disrupted oil supplies. This raised prices. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is very low. Details are still being hammered out. But the discussions involve more than a dozen productive oil fields, not all of Venezuela's 300 billion barrels of proven reserves. The fields in question, which have 90 billion barrels of proven reserves, used to be controlled by Venezuelan insiders, including the ones who have been indicted. So we'll just indict our way into control of it, as well as some interests controlled by China. Once controlled by China. Sorry, they're gone. In return, to give it back to Panda Express, right? Plenty of oil there. In return for giving the U.S. an ownership stake, Venezuela's government would benefit from private companies, including American firms, developing the fields and returning more oil revenue to the country. This is something that is, of course, critical because you have to take that oil to refineries. And the best refineries in the world are right there in the Gulf of America. And that's just a short hop, skip, and a jump for a tanker. Imagine having to take your oil and then ship it across the globe to get it refined. And that's what some people do. And that's why oil gets so expensive, is the shipping cost to get it out of Hormuz, right? You could all die these days. And then travel around the Horn of Africa and then travel over to America to get it further refined and then shipped to your local gas station. And that's what leads to $4 a gallon or even $2 a gallon. If you don't have to do that transit, or if that transit is just very peacefully through the Gulf of America, then you cut down your oil cost of production immensely. In return for giving U.S. ownership stake, Venezuela would not only that, but they'll benefit from the security of the American military might in our hemisphere. No one would ever F with them ever again. Venezuelan oil deal would be a legacy-defining moment for Trump, who made U.S. energy security and dominance the pillars of his Don Roe doctrine. President Trump close to securing American energy future for generations to come, U.S., but in the hemisphere, a second official said. Trump began privately discussing ways to have ownership stake in Venezuelan oil fields. After the capture of Maduro, Venezuela's oil sector fell into a state of disrepair because of the legacy of the socialist communist mismanagement of Maduro, Hugo Chavez. The talks have been spearheaded by Marco Rubio, genius. Last month, top officials said the State Department of Defense met with their counterparts in Caracas to discuss more of the specifics. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller is also playing a major role. So they'll probably get all the oil plus all the deportations from America. We'll take the oil. You can take all the criminal alien Venezuelan gang members and throw them into the gulags. Wow. Pretty massive. Doubles U.S. proven petroleum reserves overnight. Oil reserves by country. This is what I'm talking about, baby. This is what I'm talking about. Look at this. Venezuela bigger than Saudi Arabia. Not by a little, by a lot. Venezuela bigger than Iran by a lot. 11% versus 17%. Canada, we got to take that one too. You know what I mean? It's too easy. Trust the plan. Trump was right. Always trust. Always trust. 6 months later, and after a natural disaster no one planned, skeptics were wrong about Venezuela. We're going to have such a massive oil glut that people will be able to fill their swimming pools with gas. It's going to be so big that Texas, Alberta, and Mexico will all go broke. It's going to be huge. Venezuela technically has more oil than Saudi Arabia. This is a masterstroke, Mr. President. What, have you spoken to leaders about cutting ties? Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump on Iran. I don't want to speak to them. We're not looking to meet with them or anything. The Strait is open, and we're taking out lots of boats. Millions and millions of barrels are coming out every single day. Is that true? The answer is yes. It is absolutely true. Let's go ahead and check with MAGA news outlet Bloomberg. These people hate Trump. CNN hates Trump. Bloomberg really hates Trump. He ran for president against Trump. Bloomberg did. Can you imagine how much they must be crying to write this? The flow of crude through the Strait of Hormuz is creeping higher as producers across the Middle East boost exports in the face of Iran's lingering threat to shipping. Now, they're shipping out of the Strait of Hormuz at approximately 70 to 80% of where they were pre-war, without Iran doing anything. And then we're going to take all the... This is them saying it's existential for us. With Venezuela's partnership, we have an opportunity to move geopolitical center from the Middle East to the Western Hemisphere. That's what I'm talking about from George Washington here. This is now the Middle East is freaking out. The Middle East is now freaking out because if we are able to mine and drill in South America, the next thing we got to take is Brazil, then Canada. We have all the resources to make the Middle East, Russia, and China, all of them irrelevant. All of them. If we just got our act together in this hemisphere. And that's all Trump needs to do. And now the Middle East is freaking out because what if we just don't need them at all? This is why Iran's not lobbing any ballistics. They're like, everybody in the Middle East is like, my Muslim brothers, inshallah. My brothers in Muhammad. Do you realize that no one gets any money? None of us will get anything ever again if America packs up and leaves and nobody needs our oil. That all of our little sand nations and sand peoples are irrelevant. If suddenly we have an independent oil supply in the West. Very bad for business. Iran has completely rejected Donald Trump's demand to abandon the MOU and the Strait of Hormuz. We want more money. They say we want money. No negotiations with Iran are underway or scheduled. The naval blockade remains in full effect. The Iranian economy is in collapse. Mines have been cleared from the Strait of Hormuz, which is now open. Any agreements between Tehran and Oman carry no weight with Washington. So Iran is saying like, no, we're opening up the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump's like, it's already opened. I don't need it. I drink your milkshake. It's a beautiful thing to see. Man, beautiful thing to see. President Trump is expected to convene a meeting with U.S. refiners and fuel retailers next week to highlight efforts to bring down gas prices. What a great move. Iran says ships will transit through a designated central channel in the Strait of Hormuz if the U.S. meets Iran's conditions. Shut up. Nobody cares about you anymore. We're sick of hearing about Iran. Again, they're the ones who broke off the MOU. Everybody had it all. It was all wrapped up. It was all done. It was all finished. And then Iran couldn't stop blowing up ships. So they broke it. Trump bombed them back to the Stone Age and then said, screw you guys. We're just going to take the oil anyway. We don't need your permission. Kuwait and Qatar have increased crude shipments through the Strait of Hormuz to 70% of their pre-war levels, helping support global oil supplies, keep prices in check, using shuttle operations to move oil through the strait and transfer it to tankers in the Gulf of Oman. Yay! Now Iran is sitting there getting on their knees in front of Trump. Mediators are asked Iran for its conditions to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran is preparing a list of conditions. The conditions include ending the war in the region. Iran has agreed to a corridor with Oman. Part of the corridor lies in Omani waters and some in Iranian waters. Okay. Nobody cares. Take the oil from Venezuela and screw these people. I've always said I hope that every one of these countries sinks into the ocean. Like I'm sick, I'm sick of that part of the world. I'm sick of that region of the world. I'm also sick of the Ukraine war, for that matter. Tired of talking about these people. I want to talk about my own country. And I'd much prefer a country in my own hemisphere, right? Cuba is in my own hemisphere. That matters to me more, right? And same thing with Venezuela. South America matters to me a lot more than the Middle East. So lock it in. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. It's your boy Benny.